Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to the KnicksCast channel. I am joined here by my good friend Donald to my left or my right, however you see it. What's going on? Hope everything is well. As I said, tonight we'll be discussing the Mike Brown hire and some of the X's and O's that go with it, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. And I'll say this for the record: I was originally going to do a video, but you know what? I'm like, okay, I'm writing all these notes down for the video, right? I need somebody to collaborate with. Donald, you're great for that. We've been collaborating for majority of the playoffs, and we even did the off-season stream. Like, you know what? Let me do it with somebody else who's going to bring something to the table rather than me alone. Rather than do a 26-minute, 20-something odd minute video. I also have a PowerPoint, which I described to Donald, that I will be showcasing, and we're also going to break down some films. So, Donald, your first thoughts.
I'm delighted with the hire. Great coach. I think he was. I think he kind of blew the process out of the water. I think he killed it in the interviews, from what I hear. And I'm excited about what he brings to the offense. I mean, for instance, obviously you're going to break down a whole ton of film, and you're going to have a PowerPoint, stuff like that. But when you talk about the kind of offense that he runs, you're talking about a motion offense, a ball and body movement principles that are derived from his time at Golden State as an assistant. And that's going to be very important. I love the way that Golden State play because there's a lot of off-ball movement, a lot of cutting, and they'll speed the game up. And that's all the stuff that Mike Brown will do. Just for instance, in the 2022 season, this is pretty incredible, right? Mm-hmm. Brown's sack, Romano, averaged 118.6 points per 100 possessions, right? Which is the best efficiency of any team since the metric was tracked in 1996. So we are talking about a team that's going to play so much faster. And we're talking about a Sacramento Kings team that have never really been much of a force, much of a story.
Right.
But Mike Brown came in, and he made them a legitimate team. And he also made De'Aaron Fox. He gave him his most efficient season by far. To the point where De'Aaron Fox is like, I'm not playing for another coach. So if you guys think about firing him, you can trade me. And he stuck to that demand. So when they stupidly decided to fire Brown, he went too. So, I mean, I completely disagreed with Sacramento's decision to fire Brown. I thought Brown turned that franchise around. I don't know the rest of the ins and outs, but he did a great job with them. He changed the culture there, and I'm expecting him to change the culture here. Although the culture is already good, but I think the culture will be even better because I think he's gonna get more people involved. It's not just gonna be like a starting five. He's gonna expand it, and he's gonna have more people getting opportunities. And I'll be interested to see what he does with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. That's going to be one of the key things, but we'll be talking about that as the podcast goes on. But that's just a little like glimpse into what he's going to do. He's going to give you a lot of cutting, a lot of speed, a lot of off-ball movement, and I'm excited to see it because I think that's exactly what this offense needs. It badly needs it, and as I say, I think he's a great coach. Not just a good coach, I think he's a great coach.
Absolutely, and obviously Tom Thibodeau does service here. But when the head coach search first started, I was a Johnny Bryant guy, and I think you were first Mike Malone, and then you're like, okay, since they're not chasing after Malone, you wanted Johnny Bryant. I was originally a Johnny Bryant guy, and I'm like, okay. When I first thought of Mike Brown, I was like, I was like 50-50. And it's not like, oh, I changed my mind just so because, but my philosophy I should say, my thinking kind of evolved as a lot of other people. Like, oh, Mike Brown, hasn't been out of the first round since 2012. This, that, and you can bring up any stat you want. But I think what's important is you don't have to. We're in a position right now, the Knicks. They're in a great position right now. They added some free agents. Obviously, they have a culture. They have all these different things. You have to look at a different. You can't look at record anymore. You obviously don't want to hire fucking Luke Walton. I was scared as hell when the Knicks brought that name up, as you were, Donald, as well. But when you look at a coach now, you're looking for a coach that can optimize the team as a whole. you're not looking at wins and loss. I mean, you are, but you're not in terms of wins and losses anymore. Like, okay, would Mike Malone optimize the whole team? Who knows? But Mike Brown, what I like about him, he's very much collaborative. He's spoke about it in his intro presser. He's very collaborative. He wants to collaborate with the front office. He has trust in his staff, which Tom Thibodeau, not saying he didn't have trust in his staff, but he was pretty much, I don't want to say control freak, but he was like, okay, I want to have operations over the offense and the defense, in which a lot of Knicks fans, including us, were like, you're not really the best offensive coach. You really don't draw up decent plays. It's more isolation, this and the third. And we're like, okay, Tibbs is still going to be that guy. Like, okay, he's not going to hire an offensive assistant. I know, Donald, you thought at one time, hey, listen, let Tibbs hire an offensive assistant, let him run the offense. But
he was never going to do it, was he?
Never.
Because if you looked at the assistants on the bench, I mean, Rick Brunson, all intents and purposes, isn't really a specialist.
Right.
He's like a Tibbs guy. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Like he's like Tibbs' right hand man, and that's absolutely fine. But what he specializes in, I really couldn't tell you. Maybe player development, because obviously what he did with his son is freaking incredible. So I'm not going to take that away from him. But in terms of specialist as an offense or defensive coach, I'm not quite sure. So I know that Brown's going to be hiring his own assistant, which is going to be good news because it'll only strengthen our coaching staff.
Absolutely. And even when the Knicks had Johnny Bryant, like he obviously was integral, because I even brought this up during the playoffs. Like, Johnny Bryant would several times go up to Tom Thibodeau and whisper something in his ear. Like, and everybody talks about his development and all these different things, but like, just in terms of Johnny Bryant, just in terms of the coaches and the coaching staff, remember early on, it was Johnny Bryant, it was Kenny Payne, it was Mike Woodson. Now it was like Darren Erman, Mo Cheeks, like those guys. And we spoke about it at length too, Don, like, okay, what's the purpose of everybody else in the coaching staff? As you saw as well recently in the news that Rick Brunson, should I say, he's going to get a role in the coaching staff, but less of, how would I put this, less of power. Is not going to be high up as an assistant. So Mike Brown, as I said, will be choosing his own guy, as you said, Donald. But
let's talk about the whole Johnny Bryant thing briefly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, as fans, we were very excited about him. But I think the Knicks made it very, very clear in this process they were looking for experience.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully so.
They were looking for experience because I think it would be very difficult to sell to the fans that you've just fired a long, experienced, well-respected coach all throughout the NBA that's just took you to a conference finals, and then you fire him for a rookie. I think that's a tough sell because you really want experience.
Exactly.
That has experience of taking you to that next level. Now, none of us can see the future. We don't know whether he will take us to the next level, but he does have the experience of doing so as an assistant. Thus, I can see that. I can actually see why they did that now. Thus, Bryant necessarily didn't really make much sense, actually. Obviously, we loved him, and we love him because the fact that Donovan Mitchell loves him. We love him for his development. His reputation. But he hasn't been hired as a head coach yet. Jordan Ock got the job off him at Phoenix. So we don't know what he's like as a head coach. But we do know what Mike Brown's like as a head coach. Thus, I actually had Mike Brown ahead of Bryant not too long into this process. I actually thought, let's go experience. So I was thinking, of the ones that they liked, I think he was by far the best candidate. Of the ones that they liked, because obviously we like Malone, but they didn't want another character. So with him out the picture, for me it was basically between Jenkins, Kidd, and Brown. Kidd didn't even get accepted, so that doesn't matter. Jenkins, I think Brown's better than Jenkins. So I think it was the right choice. I think they made the right choice, and although I criticized the process when we held that big stream, I quite understand why we asked so many people under contract, but they settled on the right candidate in the end. So I'm okay with it. It was the right candidate that was available. He was the best candidate available. I don't think there's too much of a doubt about that. And so I'm okay with it.
Absolutely, me too. And I talked about collaboration now, which is the coaching staff, but the front office too. And I think I should say the relationship, or at least we sort of think the relationship between the front office and Tibbs kind of started to sour towards the end. And I think for like a decent part of the season, I think the front office actually wanted Josh Hart, the starting lineup, to play Mitch alongside Towns, but Tibbs didn't do that till Game 3 of the Pacers series. So Tibbs was very stringent. He was very strict. I guess he's going to say, stubborn. But I think you're going to see a better relationship in terms of the players that Mike Brown wants. Now, it's funny because a lot of people came up with this narrative that, oh, the Knicks aren't going to sign free agents. They don't have a coach yet. Well, they signed 2 free agents. Yeah, Jordan Clarkson on the minimum, who I think will fit Mike Brown's system very well. He's an underrated playmaker. He's a walking bucket. Now, at times, he'll shoot up the wrong shot, but he's way better than a campaign. You also have Guerschon Yabusele, who's a good three-point shooter. He's versatile defensively. He could play in the short roll. He could play in the pick and roll. So with a lot of things that Mike Brown is, or at least wants to do, I think this team is great for him. But I think this also puts pressure on the front office because let's just say Mike Brown exhausts all resources from this team and they fall short. Is that on Mike Brown or is that the front office? It would most certainly be on the front office and the construction of this team. So looking at it that way, it puts pressure on the front office. But I think Mike Brown is just going to be he's going to be a very comfortable coach. He does hold guys accountable. Mm-hmm. Again, collaborates with the coaching staff and the front office. But with that
it's one thing I look for is I'm looking for a coach to hold people accountable. Tibbs did that. There's no doubt about it. Brown does that too. And I like Brown's personality. I think you're going to enjoy watching him do interviews. I think you're going to enjoy his press conferences. He's got a great personality. I love that. I think it's going to be something that you can really rally behind. And I think the players are going to love it too. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's like in one-on-one coaching. I think he's going to be a really good coach one-on-one. You've already seen the difference that he's made with a number of players. For instance, De'Aaron Fox. So I'm excited to see that. And as you mentioned about collaborative, that was what the front office looked for. They were key. The number one thing they were looking for in this process, according to Ian Begley, was collaboration. Because Tibbs didn't really collaborate with the front office. I think there was a disconnect between Leon Rose and Tibbs as the season went on. And that's why Leon Rose didn't jump to his defense at the end of the year when Dolan was sort of like, I'm okay with making a move here. And normally Leon Rose would jump in and defend Tibbs. He didn't.
Yeah. And also as well, obviously the players speaking up in those meetings. And I feel like with Mike Brown, yes, you said he does hold guys accountable. That we can agree on. He's also more of an open door guy. Like, hey, if you have an issue, come to my office. We'll speak about this one-on-one. So that's, again, he mentioned, I believe this was in the press conference, but he said specifically throughout that Golden State era when he was an associate head coach with Durant, with Draymond Green, Steph Curry, all these different guys he was around, he understood the importance of relationships. Now, he also, I think, not that he personally cited, he also served under Greg Popovich. And Popovich held Tim Duncan to a high standard, and everybody else fell in line. Who did Mike Brown hold accountable? De'Aaron Fox. I'm going to hold you accountable, but everybody else fell in line just like that. So with that being said, and also the notion that Donald, you made a great point about the notion with De'Aaron Fox. Some people believe, oh, Mike Brown was fired because De'Aaron Fox pushed him out. That's not true. De'Aaron Fox loved Mike Brown. And you said it with the quote, Donald. During that offseason, the 24 offseason, Fox told the organization straight up, I love Mike Brown. If I'm not playing for another coach, and if I am playing for another coach, that's going to be on another team. So they fired Mike Brown, and effectively De'Aaron Fox says, I want out of here. He was traded effectively. And
it's been a vicious circle since then, man.
Exactly.
It was because they haven't really acquired a point guard since. And now they've overpaid for Schroeder, who I like, but isn't the caliber that De'Aaron Fox is. So,
oh, hell no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think Mike Brown did some special stuff with the Kings, and the Kings front office do what the front office have been doing.
Yeah, it was interesting because in their first year in the 22-23 season, Monty McNair won Executive of the Year, Mike Brown won Coach of the Year. The second year they somewhat regressed, and in the third year, it just went out and signed DeMar DeRozan and acquired Zach LaVine. It's like they reincarnated the Bulls that didn't work for whatever reason. But with that being said, let's get into the PowerPoint, shall we?
Let's do
And
it.
I said in the opening that I would rather do a PowerPoint instead of reading off notes. I mean, I have my notes with me, but I would like to share my information and my stuff with you guys. So
While you load it, man, you
absolutely.
just mentioning his experience as an assistant. Could you name two better organizations than Greg Popovich plus the Dynasty Warriors? Does it get better than that?
Does not get better than that. So we have Mike Brown from his press conference. What do we need to know about Mike Brown? Now, I'll say this regarding the information at the end. It's not all the information I have. Some I have on my iPad, but regardless, what do we need to know about Mike Brown? So we'll start off earlier in his career. He started as an assistant coach. Let me actually see if I can play the slideshow here. Give me 1 second, because it would actually be a lot better. Let's see. Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. Insert view. All right. Damn. Give me 1 second. You guys see the slides? Hold on. Review. Yeah, I didn't. Give me 1 second, as I said, but you'll see Mike Brown here in a second. I just want to, because I have transitions too. I added some transitions as well. Here we go. I think I just saw it play from. Hold on. All right, play from start. Can you guys see this? Do you see Donald? Do you see the slideshow?
I just see what do we need to know about Mike Brown.
Perfect. That's the opening slide. As long as you saw the transitions and everything, this is working. So what do we need to know about Mike Brown? Let's go to the first slide. So nice. to start off his coaching career, he was an assistant under Bernie Bickerstaff with the Washington Wizards /Bullets from 1997 to 1999. Now, I believe the Nick of Time show actually got to interview Bernie Bickerstaff and talked with him about Mike Brown. So that was something great to check out. I might post that as well. But let's go to 2000 to 2003. Won the 03 finals. Obviously, Popovich, I mentioned, coach that team. Assistant under Popovich with the Spurs, and coached two of the Spurs Summer League teams. Now, what I find interesting as well is who was a player on that team, who Mike Brown would later serve with on the coaching staff? Steve Kerr. He had two tenures during Mike Brown's tenure as an assistant coach. Kerr as a player, obviously. They won the 03 finals. So, aside from being an assistant the past 2 years, he gets a little bit from a promotion, with the Indiana Pacers hiring Rick Carlisle, ironically, who he's current team with, or I should say current team, current coach, second tenure regardless, assistant and associate head coach under Rick Carlisle with the Indiana Pacers. He earned a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals in 2004, ultimate loss to the Detroit Pistons, I shouldn't say the bad boy Pistons, but the go-to-work Pistons with Larry Brown. And right here, we have a fun little image of Mike Brown trying to restrain Ron Artest during the Malice at the Palace. I thought I'd throw that in for humor purposes. But let's move on. First head coaching gig with the Cleveland Cavaliers. At the time of the hiring, the second youngest head coach in the NBA, Lawrence Frank was actually the first with the Brooklyn Nets. He ended up replacing Byron Scott, I believe it was, who led him to the finals twice, but ultimately lost. Regardless, he coached an up-and-coming and young LeBron James. In his second season, Brown and LeBron led the Cavaliers to their first ever finals. The team had the fourth best defensive rating in the NBA, and they were ultimately swept by Mike Brown's mentor, Greg Popovich, and the San Antonio Spurs. Unfortunately, he'd be fired on May 24th, 2010, because owner Dan Gilbert wanted to lure LeBron James back to Cleveland, and they could not make it further than the Eastern Conference Finals. Regular season record, 272-138. Playoff record, 42-29. One-time Eastern Conference champion, 3 times lost in the semifinals, 1 time lost in the conference finals, and 1 Coach of the Year in 2008-2009 season, which ironically was the same season they lost to the Orlando Magic. But anyways, we move forward. Second coaching gig, another superstar, Kobe Bryant. 2011 to 2012, head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. They made it to the Western Conference. Now, let me say, before I mention the accomplishments and shit, very tough job having to replace Phil Jackson. So Brown was under a lot of duress, and there was more duress to come along with it. Made it to the Western Conference semifinals and lost in 5 games to the OKC Thunder, who would eventually make it to the finals and lose to LeBron. That offseason, after the fail in the playoffs, Steve Nash and Dwight Howard would be the team's main acquisitions. This would be a part of a failed super team with Pau Gasol and Kobe Bryant. Unfortunately, to start the season, the team went 1-4. Ownership tried to panic. I should say they panicked trying to win with their aging starters and trying to convince Dwight Howard to stay, who was an impending free agent after the year. And the team would fire Brown and hire Mike D'Antoni. As you guys know, that team was not very successful. They would lose in the first round. And also, it was also a philosophical difference when Brown wanted to run his offense, the Princeton offense, a lot of ball movement, a lot of cutting. Team was just way too old. Now, let me just make sure everybody's kept up with me so far. All right, perfect. So, let me get back to this, play from this current slide. Anywho, let me also say about that Lakers tenure, though. Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant did not get along. That team didn't. That foursome didn't play a lot of games together. So it was a rather fail on the front office's part. Also, they wanted to win because Jerry Buss, at the time, the owner, was falling ill. He'd eventually pass away, I believe, in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. But that team was a failure from the start. Anywho, he goes back to Cleveland, and he plays with another coaches another up-and-coming superstar by the name of Kyrie Irving. 2013-2014, second tenure as head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dan Gilbert proclaimed that the first time they fired Brown, it was a mistake. And this team was awful. You look at the roster. Coached a roster-bearing Cavs team to 33 wins, was fired promptly after the season due to reported infighting amongst the locker room. Now, I'm going to escape this for about a second to break down some of the details. They were 33-49 that season. Anywho, all right. Infighting in locker room, Kyrie Irving and Dion Waiters did not mesh. Andrew Bynum was suspended in December for conduct detrimental to the team. And if you don't know, also as well, just want to make sure that all these different things are there. Let me see, just want to make sure. Yeah, anywho. Bynum was past his prime at that point. So many other guys, so many trash players at that point. Just want to cover my notes real quick. Yeah, it was infighting. Team did not do well defensively at all. So it was just a very bad situation for Mike Brown. I'll get to more notes on the sec, but otherwise we have to get back to the presentation. Anywho. Right, let's get back. Start. All right. Mike Brown's hiatus after the Cleveland Cavaliers coaching tenure. He took a break from being a head coach. This is his moment. Associate head coach with the Golden State Warriors under Steve Kerr, ironically played under Brown and Pop in San Antonio, temporarily took over for Kerr during the 2017 playoffs, led team to a 12-0 record during the stretch, earned 2 rings as head coach, 2017 and 2018 finals champs, took some valuable lessons from Golden State to the Kings, importance of player relationships, pace and space offense, accountability, and evolution as head coach. Next slide. The rebirth of a franchise, the Sacramento Kings, 22-25. Head coach of the Kings, ended a 16-year playoff drought. In 22-23, lost to the Golden State Warriors in 7 in the first round. At the time, the Kings set the NBA's highest ever offensive rating, 119.4, and it eventually would be surpassed by the Celtics, who won the championship in 2023-2024. Kevin Huerter, who we see lighting the beam, averaged career highs in three-point attempts and three-point percentage in 22-23. Malik Monk became a household name, consistently in the running for Sixth Man of the Year. De'Aaron Fox made his first All-Star team. Domantas Sabonis made his third. Also, All-NBA team twice, and NBA's rebounding leader all seasons with Mike Brown. Unfortunately, good times wouldn't last. 23-24. Offense regresses to the 13th best instead of the first best. Malik Monk and Kevin Herter suffered injuries that would handcuff the team. And Keegan Murray, who was drafted the prior season, improved slightly but did have plenty of nights with shooting woes. They tried to expand his offensive game, and the shooting percentages were lower, as Murray, I believe, shot 40% from three the prior season, but De'Aaron Fox did take him under his wing to try to expand his offensive game. Some games he was good, some games he was bad. 2024 was the ultimate collapse. The Kings would acquire DeMar DeRozan from the Bulls. Mixed reviews from NBA analysts. Positive, the team gets a bucket getter. Negative, because DeRozan, not a great three-point shooter, and he's more ISO heavy in addition to being older and not good enough to be a leader secondary option. He also struggles defensively as well. Controversy ensuing between Keon Ellis and Mike Brown. I believe it was a game against the Spurs, where Keon Ellis made a bad foul, which gave the Spurs 2 free throws and ultimately won them the game. Brown would sit him for a couple of games after Malik Monk ironically returned. Also, as well, I also saw from it was either from an article, I think it was actually the KFS interview they had with one of Sacramento's beat reporters. He actually tried to start Keon Ellis, which the front office would object to. Anywho, Mike Brown would be fired after airing out the team in a loss versus the Pistons, where De'Aaron Fox fouled Jaden Ivey on a made three-point attempt. We've got to have some sort of mental toughness, he said. So, airing out guys in the media, he's no stranger to, but as I said, he did emphasize the importance of cultivating player relationships.
He's also not wrong.
That's true. That's true.
But in the modern world of sports, they hate accountability. Some organizations just hate being held accountable in public.
Absolutely, 100%. Like our Yankees, but that's a different subject. But out with the old, in with the new. I separated some differences between the two coaches. Brown is more personable with the media, as we said, and also a more personable person. Acknowledges the importance of player relationships. He trusts his staff and will be collaborative with the front office. He will play his bench. He's shown to evolve. Cavs, defensive team. The Kings, offensive team. So he can coach two types of teams with having, I should say, a knowledge on both sides of the ball. Tibbs, that really was not the case. He acknowledges the importance of player relationships and wants collaboration, as we said, with the coaching staff too. Tibbs, set in his scheme, set in his ways, which was one of the less endearing qualities about him, and allows for a little adaptation on both sides of the ball. Unfortunately, he will take all responsibilities for both sides of the ball. Vague with the media, some didn't like, but nobody really cared about that. And more recent playoff success, I may add, than Mike Brown. Tibbs obviously getting the Knicks out of the first round 3 consecutive years in a row this year with the Knicks going to the Eastern Conference.
You could also add that Tibbs has built a sustained winning culture. Brown hasn't.
That's true. That's true.
That's something that Tibbs definitely has done. Like, the Knicks have remained very much one of the best teams for basically since his entire tenure, apart from 1 year. So, we need to see how Brown's methods, because it looks like he's an instant impact guy, but
absolutely,
it's whether those impacts can translate over a longer period. But what I love in Brown's favor is I think that he's probably more of an all-round coach than Tibbs is. I think Tibbs is a defensive specialist, and I think he's really good at like toughness and getting you to play like just 100% all the time. But Brown is shown to be a specialist offensively, but has also been an assistant coach for defense, and has also got tons of experience coaching the best of the best of the best. Are you kidding me? LeBron James and Kobe Bryant?
Exactly.
Are you kidding me here? We're talking about and Kyrie Irving, another Hall of Famer. So that's something that Brown has that Tibbs doesn't, is Brown is much better at coaching the best of the best of the best. Although, to be fair, playoff Jimmy and, of course, Jalen Brunson absolutely adores
Thibodeau. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think – sorry, but LeBron James and Kobe Bryant clears. So
I mean, yeah. I
that's,
mean, who
that's
wouldn't
pretty
say
good.
that?
I like that resume. That's when you walk into an interview and say, "Oh, by the way, I've coached Kobe Bryant and Jalen and LeBron James
Yeah.
and Kyrie Irving." You're you're good. Oh, and I've coached under two dynasties. Yeah, you're kind of. I think you're onto a winner here in terms of
Yeah,
getting.
you're pretty important, or I should say, you're on the way to being pretty important as well. So, with that being said, we'll move into offense, offense, offense. This is not schematics. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Let's go. Let's go with the basics first of all. Tibbs prefers a slow pace, more isolation ball, which I have the numbers for his isolations. And if you ask him spacing versus size, he's very much on the size, as Donald said, defensive first coach. Mike Brown, moderate to a faster pace, less isolations, more ball movement, and free flow using Princeton concepts. Spacing size, he would say spacing. Pace, go ahead, Donald, you were about to say.
Yes, I've actually got some stats to back that up. So his best season with the Kings, they topped off at third in transition frequency. New York has consistently been one of the slowest teams for basically our entire lives.
Exactly.
So that's there's that, and also he's his Kings teams were in the top 10 in average possession time. The Knicks were dead last. So even in the half court, like they dominate possession more than the Knicks do, even though the Knicks are more of they were more of a half court team under Tibbs. So the numbers are very much in Brown's favor there.
Absolutely, 100%. And moving to pace, pace, pace. We all see Josh Hart, who is very much our transition hero, or a guy who loves transition. General pace. We have the Knicks on the left. We have the Kings on the right. The Knicks never really, throughout the past 3 seasons, topped out at pace ever. 25th, 30th, and 26th. Even with the change in personnel, the Kings 12th, 14th, and 19th. And I will say, I don't think they'll be top 5 in pace this year, but I could see a moderate pace. Not a too fast pace, but moderate. What do you think, Donald?
Yeah, I think he does well with coaching the personnel that's going to be available to him. I think it will definitely be sped up. You've got ideal players for that.
Exactly.
When you consider Josh Hart, but especially OG Anunoby. I want OG Anunoby to be kind of like, let's say, a Jalen Williams type, where he can be a great perimeter defender, use his wingspan to force steals, and then get out in transition, get out and running, baby. Whenever OG does that, the Knicks are basically unstoppable. If you looked at the numbers, and it was quite remarkable the difference between the Knicks in the first half of the year and the second half of the year. The Knicks in the first half of the year had tons of examples, for instance, when they destroyed the Denver Nuggets, like destroyed them, ruined them, like an unbelievable amount. And a lot of it was like great defense, getting out running, ball movement, a lot of transition, and the Knicks were basically unstoppable. It was the second half of the year, and it was towards the end of the second half of the year, the Knicks completely got rid of that. And it was all ISO, ISO, ISO. Then the Knicks offense started to become less efficient, less interesting, less productive. And that's when things started to go awry for the Knicks, actually. When they just became an ISO-centric, please just basically give the ball to Jalen Brunson and hope for the best offense. Whereas in the first half of the year, by and large, there was a lot more ball movement. You were seeing really good two-man game between Brunson and Cat. You were seeing OG having a career start to his year. Same with Josh Hart, by the way. And it was just in the second half of the year, things just fell apart. And I think that's when Tibbs' job became a question, because it was clear that the pace, the interesting aspects of our offense was completely gone. You didn't utilize the offense, and it was just ISO, ISO, ISO. And we locked out in the playoffs because it was still the same principles. It was just because Brunson was God and down the stretch in a lot of games that the Knicks pulled it out. But I'm looking forward to seeing Brown make use of more of his talent at his disposal.
Absolutely, 100%. And one of the things that kind of irked me last year in terms of how the Knicks ran their offense and obviously we have it in the stats right here. How long did it take for the Knicks to get in their first action? Like they would be like 15. It would be like 10 seconds of the shot clock when players would start moving. I'm like, what are we doing here? Obviously, that's not just on the coach. It's also on the point guard, the court general on the for the offensive side of the ball. But the Knicks, I expect them to be better with that. So with that, from 22 to 25, the Knicks held the longest seconds per possession in the NBA, 15.6. 19.5 seconds on the shot clock when crossing half court, second least in the NBA. 6.7 seconds until their first action, seventh slowest in the NBA. The Kings, 14.2 seconds per possession, seventh shortest in the NBA. 20.1 seconds on the shot clock when crossing half court, the most in the NBA. And 6.2 seconds until the first action, the third quickest in the NBA. So Kings got into their offense quickly and organized, rightfully so. Moving the ball, we have got the partnership to our right of Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, obviously the past, but talked about isolation, talked about moving the ball. Let's start off with the Kings. The Kings, we have assist percentage and we have assist per game. The Kings ranked 3rd, 7th, and 13th in assists per game throughout Mike Brown's tenure, 27.3 in the first year, 28.3 in the second year, 26.5 in the third year. Assist percentage, 62.6, 7th, 65.4, 7th. And it tipped down this year, 61.5, 22nd. But I would say partially, I'm not defending Mike Brown, I think partially was DeMar DeRozan's addition because he's a more ISO-heavy player. But anyways, the Knicks, 29th in assists, 29th in assists, 11 in assists. So the assists got better this year, obviously with the addition of personnel like Karl-Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges who can make shots. And assist percentage, 30th, 29th, 17th. So never amongst the highest among the NBA. And I think that's going to only get better.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Hopefully. Again, I'm putting a hope on the assist percentage. Or the assist per game.
Yeah, we really need to get into how he's going to coach this personnel.
Oh, absolutely. That's coming up. But spacing the floor, 3-point shooting. We'll start off. I think this is our final slide, and then we'll obviously break down in terms of the personnel and stuff. 3-point shooting, the Knicks, 19th, 14th, and 8th in percentage. The Kings, 9th, 16th, and 19th. But you will see the Knicks only ranked top 10 once in 3-point attempts. The Knicks need to really bring that up. Obviously, with personnel with Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl-Anthony Towns at your behest. I believe Karl-Anthony Towns, I think this was his career low in terms of 3-point attempts in a season since he was coached by Tom Thibodeau in his days in Minnesota. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that was the case, and it's obviously not an ideal one. But for the Knicks in 3-point attempts, 35.7, 35.8, and 34.1. Shockingly went down. Anyways, the Kings, 37.3, 39.3, 35.2. Anywho, so with that being said, that was the final final slide part of the slideshow. Now I'm going to close that out real quick. I also have some additional notes, but Donald, you wanted to bring up personnel. And before that, I actually got some comments to get to. What's up to Alex? What's up to Nimar? Like the Brown hire, me too. He says, I like the hire, I like the moves, just need to add another ball handler. We good? I would say so too, man. But Donald, what would you like to get into about personnel? Because I have some of the stuff written down too. I have a feeling what you're going to touch on. I have that written down. But by all means.
Yeah, because you asked the question, if this doesn't work out, who's it going to fall on? Is it the front office or is it going to be Brown? And you said it's going to be the front office because I'm still not convinced that this trio that we've gone all in on is a championship level one.
Mm-hmm.
Where actually I should I should just because I do Jalen Brunson's definitely championship level. I'm looking at Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges, who we went all in on. I'm not convinced that they are championship caliber. Um, First of all, neither of them are high IQ ball players. Right? Their
Right.
IQ is not considerably high, right? So when you look at, like, for instance, the assist numbers being sky high with Sacramento, you're looking at Domantas Sabonis, who is an
Hmm.
excellent passer of the ball at the 4 or the 5. He's a very good passer. Kai is a very good passer, but he just doesn't pass. When he does
Right.
decide to pass, he's actually very, very good, but he's not got the highest IQ. So
Understandable, yeah.
so that's part of the issue. Sabonis's IQ is top notch, so that's one thing. Another thing, Mikal, obviously, when you're looking at his very fluent offensive system, a lot of cutting, a lot of off ball screens, a lot of screens, a lot of movement, a lot of movement, a lot of movement. Who hates that? Mikal Bridges.
I'd say I don't think he would hate the cutting part, the setting the screen
Yeah,
part.
but again, he doesn't follow the right principles, the spacing principles that Brown follows. He's not like the Warriors would avoid uh, Bridges like the plague because he doesn't like go for threes, for instance, when he's cutting after
Yeah,
he
that's
doesn't
got to
set a screen.
change.
He doesn't set a screen because he's terrified of contact. And then instead of putting himself in a position where he can knock down an open three, he tries to kind of do an odd kind of loop in the paint to try and get his customary fadeaway.
Yeah.
That's not something that would really suit a Brown team. So I'm concerned about that, frankly. Plus, he isn't a very good ball handler, and um, that's something that obviously is important for Brown's offense. So he doesn't really like to pass the ball too much. So I'm starting to think, is he really an ideal like fit?
Mm.
Um, so I'm interested to see another thing. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox, he got them running fast because De'Aaron Fox is one of the fastest point guards in the league.
Yeah.
That's not really Brunson's game. He's more of a half court point guard. You know, he is just one of the great minds of the game in which he can figure out space just with his own IQ is just fucking brilliant. Rather than like pure athleticism, that's not really his thing. That was more Fox's thing. So I'm interested to see how that personnel is going to work with Mike Brown. Um, I think that he can get. I think he's going to make Jalen Brunson even better. I do think that. Um, I think Towns will be more. Will be good. I think Towns could work. I think.
Think.
Not 100% sure. I
Mhm.
think, but I don't think Bridges will.
Mm. Okay. So with Brunson, I don't think you have to be fast in terms, as you mentioned with De'Aaron Fox, very fast player. Brunson not so fast, but he's very quick. He's very smart, intuitive as you say. If they're quick in the half court, as I mentioned, all the numbers regarding seconds per possession, if they're quick like that, I think that works. Not like, oh, we have to run it up like 7 seconds or less. You don't have to do that with Mike Brown or Jalen Brunson. Karl Anthony Towns, I'm surprised you didn't bring up the um, whether he should be at the 4 or the 5. Because I thought
Oh, it's obvious he should be at the 4. I mean, that's not obvious. That's
uh,
obvious.
I think in this, if I'm being honest, Al, I think you have to put him at the 5 in this offense. But I could see, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Brown said, "Hey, Towns, we're going to put you at the 4 to start with Mitchell Robinson at the 5," because obviously, coaches really do lip service at these press conferences. He did mention that he likes the versatility of both players, Towns and Robinson. Robinson being a vertical threat, Towns being a spacing threat. But I think, and let me say this for the record: just because you start Towns at the 5 doesn't mean he can't play minutes at the 4. Just because you start Towns at the 4 doesn't mean he can't play at the 5. So obviously,
I
if you
know,
have a
but
coach,
you can't have your center being one of the worst defenders in the league, which he is at the 5. He's one of the worst 5s in the league defensively. plus Jalen Brunson at the 1, who's one of the poor defenders. I wouldn't say one of the worst, but he's certainly one of the poor defenders at the point. You can't really survive that in a starting lineup because that was Tips' problem. He was running that out there and it was broken. Cat needs to be at the 4. I agree with LV. It's not equivocal. He needs to be at the 4. We can't survive. That's why Towns is one of the odder players to go all in on because you want to play him at the 5 because he can be that stretch 5, but he's such a liability defensively that he's better at the 4. So that's what I'm saying. Is just I think this is more of a story about Leon Rose's
the construction.
I've always felt that it was more about Leon Rose's roster construction rather than any failure from Tom Thibodeau. Even though I think that Brown is certainly level, if not a slight upgrade over Thibodeau.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you mentioned the passing of Domantas Sabonis. Just for some stats real quick, he posted the highest assists per game and assist percentage of his career with Brown as coach in 22-23, 7.3 assists per game and 30.4 assist percentage. 23-24, 8.2 assists per game, 33.9 assist percentage. And there's some also offensive impact and stats I'll get to as well, but damn, Woo fucking my Yankees.
No-hitter. Woo's pitching a no-hitter with.
I think the Yankees are getting no hit actually.
Yeah, no-hitter with 6 outs to go.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah. No-hitter going to the 8th inning.
Typical Yankees, but again, I understand your points, Donald, and I'm as I say, we all know Towns is deficient at the 5 defensively, but I think for this offense to really work, I think you have to put Towns at 5, and I'll tell you why. Obviously, you have the offensive impact stats and all this shit that I'm going to read off, but you look at how the Kings ran some of their set plays. They had, first of all, you're not going to have Towns in the post as much trying to dribble and try to beat a guy in the post. You're going to have Towns as a standstill player looking for guys across the floor when they're cutting and trying to move around. That was Sabonis, and Sabonis obviously has a better IQ. But what you could do with Towns, which Sabonis did not do because he's not a good three-point shooter, you're having Towns not in the post. You're having him at the three-point line waiting for a handoff. And think about it. Let's just say if Mikal Bridges or Jalen Brunson waiting to receive the handoff. The defender is behind Jalen Brunson or Mikal Bridges. They're getting down the lane pretty easily. And if they're doubled, somebody's going to be open if you're playing a 5-out alignment, which I hope the Knicks would do. But if you play with Mitchell Robinson at the 5, I'm not mad at that idea at all. I'm not mad at that idea at all.
That could work, dude. If Brown can unlock Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5, he would be the only coach in Towns' career to do that because Towns has not been unlocked at the 5 yet. He wasn't able to do it at the Timberwolves. That's why they acquired Gobert. It wasn't successful last year. It's essentially got Tips fired. So if Brown can do it, all power to him. It makes Brown a fucking incredible coach. Excuse me, but it would make him an incredible coach because
you're absolutely right.
Towns has not proven himself to be a reliable 5. Offensively, yeah, but it doesn't make up for the poor defense, and it's all about defense wins championships. That's the thing. So,
absolutely.
But as you say, for instance, I would definitely have Towns unequivocally at the 4, but I like the idea of where you can play him at the 5 in certain roles, where for instance, if you wanted to stagger the minutes so that Brunson sits and Towns becomes the number 1 option, you can have him as the number 1 option at the 5, where those offensive principles that you mentioned would really work.
Right.
I just don't know if the two of them can coexist. And then you're going to have a good defensive team. I don't think that's possible.
Mm-hmm. Understandably so. And it's also, what's interesting too is Domantas Sabonis was not the greatest defender either. He was a hell of a rebounder, not the greatest defender. So I think Mike Brown might have something in his back pocket that he could work with Towns with, in my personal opinion. But you look at the offensive impact stats with Domantas Sabonis at the 5 the past 3 years. in offensive box plus minus from 22 to 25. These are each the individual seasons, plus 4.1, plus 4.0, plus 4.2 in the offensive box plus minus categories. Now, you go with offensive win shares, 9.6, 8.6, 7.4. You go with on-off rating, plus 1.9, minus 2.1, plus 5.6. So relatively positive, obviously, for Sabonis. He did get better, as you said, under Mike Brown. But let's look at Karl-Anthony Towns' stats this year as a center, largely with the Knicks. Plus 3.5 in offensive box plus minus, 6.3 offensive win shares, and a plus 5.6 on-off rating, his highest since 21-22 when he was a center, I believe, under Chris Finch. So I think the offense, and you look at obviously the offense box plus minus, the further analytics, should I say, the more sophisticated ones, Cat with his 3-point shooting, and I think with better passing, he's gonna have more impact offensively. And I think that's what you're looking for to offset the defensive deficiencies, which obviously we know there are a ton there. But
yeah, I think that there's more, even though we've seen Cat as an all NBA player, which he is, all NBA offensive player. I think Brown could add levels to his game, which we've not seen yet. And I'm excited to see, because I think partly that hire was to try and get Cat to a higher level. Even though he was very good last year, like there is no argument. He was very good last year. Very good. He was actually very good in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So, I think there's more that you can do with Cat that was wasted with Tibbs. He just didn't know what to do to get the most out of him. I think Brown will do a better job of that. I think the spacing principles will work. I'm excited to see Cat. Cat needs to slim down. He needs to improve in terms of his durability, in terms of, his physicality needs to be top notch, but also I think his durability needs to be better too, and his stamina needs to be better. I think he needs to slim down a little bit. I hear that he's doing that. I think he needs to slim down. If he's going to work in this offense, he needs to slim down.
Absolutely. It's more quick.
I think that I think there's something that Brown can do to unlock him and reach an even higher level than he's already proven, and he's already one of the best offensive centers we've ever seen.
Exactly.
Not even centers, like bigs.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see what you can do with him. Mm-hmm. It's really like one last chance for Cat to prove that he's a championship level big.
Absolutely.
This will be the season for it.
And you're making that bet effectively, Donald. You're making that bet. You said you would give Cat and Brunson one more year, and I think you have
1 year together.
Exactly. And ironically, my next stat was actually about the pick and roll. How Sabonis and Cat did. I'd say Sabonis over the last 3 years. Obviously, that duo with Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox was among the NBA's elite. So 22-23, when they had that great offensive season, they ran the pick and roll about 15% of the time. They averaged 1.33 points per possession, which ranked in the 84th percentile. They ran this 2.6 possessions per game, and they scored on 66% of those plays. So you go to 2023, 2024, they ran the play 17.3%, 1.23 points per possession on average, about a 63 percentile, which is about average, 3.2 possessions per game, scoring at about 59.6% of those plays. 24-25, they ran it even more, 22.4% frequency, 1.2 points per possession, 75.6 percentile, 3.9 possessions per game, and a 57.5 scoring frequency with Cat. And we obviously mentioned beginning of the season, the elite pick and roll between Brunson and Towns. And then defenses started to stick their centers on Josh Hart, leaving him alone, which effectively affected the pick and roll. Towns, the pick and roll with him, 12.6% frequency, 1.25 points per possession. Even with the minimization optimized, minimized optimization of the pick and roll, the Knicks ran it fairly well with the 78.6 percentile and scoring on 58% of those plays. So even then, there's just, as you said, Donald, more to unlock with Karl-Anthony Towns. And again, you might not see Karl-Anthony Towns average career high points per game, but he's going to be more effective, efficient, and impactful offensively.
As long as Brunson gets the memo.
Yes.
Brunson, it's going to be on Brunson too.
Absolutely.
He can score
Absolutely.
better than anyone in isolation. He's one of the best isolation scorers I've seen. He's freaking incredible, especially for his size. He might be the best for his size.
Oh,
Like since
absolutely.
AI, like that's how good an ISO scorer he is. But as a distributor, he's quite far off, and that needs to improve because he needs to understand that he will close the game, he will win you the game in the end. But for me, he needs to know that he needs to trust his teammates in the first half, first three quarters.
Absolutely.
So he needs to generate a better two-man game with Cat, pick and pops, those kind of things. I'd like to see that. It's going to be on him, and I think he can do it because you just look at De'Aaron Fox. He was never really for me a pass first point guard.
No.
But those numbers skyrocketed up with Brown because Brown unlocked them. So I think Brown can unlock more levels in Jalen Brunson even as a distributor rather than anything else, and that's going to be important. For me, we need guys that are going to fit that spacing principle system. That should be continue to be the main focus in terms of our roster building. I love the Jordan Clarkson, I love the Yabusele acquisitions because they fit what we're looking for.
Yes.
And that's great. And it's just a question of, do you think they're done? Do you think that's them done, or do you think they might look for?
It's a good question. I know that Stephen Bondi said the Knicks are actually checking in on the Marcus Smart situation in Washington. Now, I'll say this. I'll speak on that real quick. I don't know if he's the player he was in Boston. I don't think he is. But how would you feel as a fit next to Jalen Brunson maybe to start? If he's like maybe 50, 60% is the player he was in Boston.
I wouldn't say start.
Okay, you wouldn't say start.
He's not even close to the player he was in Boston, unfortunately, man. Like injuries and father time really caught up to him. He's slowed down massively. But in a small role for 10, 15 minutes, I think it'd be a really good acquisition. He'll bring that toughness, bring that defense. It's just about health with him, man. Health has not been good with him for a while. But, when you're wasting your time over in Washington, where no minute that you play matters, then it'll be
Exactly.
different than the intensity of being in New York, and that might rewind the clock a little bit with Marcus Smart. But I don't see him as a defensive player. I think maybe in a role, 10, 15 minutes, give you, that toughness. I like it because the team lacked toughness last year.
Absolutely. I used to want Smart. I'm ambiguous. He spoke about Towns as well. What's ironic is Cat was a solid defensive player in college. About this, and you know what? Here's another player from the Washington Wizards I actually want if he's going to be signed to that minimum contract. Because right now, if we're being completely honest and objective, the Knicks really don't have a point guard, so to say, off the bench. Clarkson, I view more of a shooting guard. Same thing with Deuce McBride. I think McBride would be ideal for that number 2 spot next to Brunson.
Tyler Kolek!
Tyler Kolek, listen, it's a debate because some people want Malcolm Brogdon. Tyler Kolek, I wouldn't mind either, but I think it's going to be interesting. And obviously, the next Summer League game starts tomorrow, so you're going to see Tyler Kolek. But I'm interested to see how Mike Brown views him. Because again, he can open up the bench.
The Knicks hate the draft. They've ignored the draft for years. They need to develop somebody if you're going to get anywhere. You can't just keep stockpiling massive contracts because you're going to end up like the Boston Celtics and you're going to end up having to make a fire sale long after winning a championship.
That's what the CBA does now too. So obviously,
with the CBA in the second apron, you can't afford it. So the Knicks need to start developing. Thus, you're going to have to give Kolek an opportunity to develop as your point guard. You need to give these guys that you drafted an opportunity to develop. They have done an awful job over the last year or so developing their talent. Miserable
Yeah.
job. They need to do a much better job. That's why I think that's partly why Tips didn't get didn't stay on that much longer
Yeah.
because he just ignores rookies and he might not be ready, LV, but if you look at his assist to turnover ratio, it's fantastic. He runs a good offense. He runs an up tempo offense, and he's a smart player. Those are all the kind of things that Brown would like. That's all the
Yeah.
kind of his skill set is something that Brown would like. So I wanna see what he can do. Give him that opportunity. I think he'd be a really good backup point guard. There's no point wasting
Wasting
valuable
another player away.
roster spot if he could
And
be your backup.
yeah, and the thing is, like, people are like, okay, well, the use of first round picks or the importance of first round picks has gone down since the CBA and that. I actually kind of disagree with that because, as you said, Donald, the more contracts you stack up, the more meaningful those first round picks are because you need role players alongside that star talent. You see it in Oklahoma City right now. They signed Shai Gilgeous to a supermax. They signed, I think, Chet Holmgren might have been signed to a max
Yes, they
extension.
signed Chet, they
Jalen
signed
Williams.
Jalen Williams, and they signed Shea
They
Gilgeous-Alexander.
signed their core today.
Yeah,
Exactly. They signed their core together. They might have to
$800 million worth of contracts, but it's not going to get them to the second apron necessarily because they've got like another like 12 picks over the next couple of years that they can use and to space out the rest of the bottom half of the roster in order to keep them under the second apron because Sam Presti is a genius of a GM. So the Knicks are very top heavy. They don't have much depth. They've improved the depth, but the one criticism that I have of late is it looks like Leon Rose has completely and utterly ignored the draft, and I find it one of his biggest weaknesses. Like I don't know what his issue is with the draft. Like you've wasted another draft here. You could have done something. You could have bought into maybe early in the second round or bought into the bottom end of the first round. You could have done something like that. You could have done something to get yourself a trade piece. I didn't even like the guy they drafted. The guy they originally drafted, I liked, and then they traded him away.
What was the player's name? Remind me.
Oh,
it was Kobe? Hold on.
That's it. It was Kobe, whatever his name is. But I like that guy better than the guy that they ended up with because, again, they prioritized the draft and stash.
Kobe Sanders.
Yeah, I don't really like the whole draft and stash principle that much. I think it's just a cop out. So that's my biggest issue with Leon Rose. I think he wasted another draft here. We can't keep wasting drafts.
Yeah, especially as you have players getting older and stuff. And I even actually posted a short if you guys didn't see. I was like critical of the DOR on pick. I'm like, okay, the kid you just drafted is 19 years old. He's not a good shooter. He's mostly known as a versatile defensive big. Like, what else does he add that I don't know about? Like, he's very, very, very raw. And, we won't have the time to develop him. And the thing is, and I said it, at the time, I'm like, okay, you need players right now, if you're drafting, that can contribute in the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
They don't have to be perfect. They need to be in their specific role. Like Tyler Kolek, I think he can play right now. Ariel Huckporty, despite being taken in the second round, I think he could be a solid backup center. Why the hell not?
And maybe maybe there's something to Dadier.
That's true. He cold, no doubt, but we finals bound. That's the expectation. Yeah, absolutely. That's the expectation. Obviously, with the rotation, things like that. Dadier, obviously, you just mentioned. I don't think McCullough's going to be a part of the rotation because right now he's basically on the outside looking in. But with Dadier, maybe you're expecting a leap with Summer League and, seeing it maybe in an actual offensive system where actually Mike Brown will employ the bench. But even then, there's already guys in front of these rookies that could play. So at the end of the day, I agree with you about the whole draft thing because draft talent is like, the draft wasn't really good last year, but you said this year is like bevy of talent. So
right, and a lot of them high school, so you could have maybe developed them over a long term. It was weird. I don't really get it. What do you think about their draft strategy?
Yeah, as I remarked to right now, I wasn't high in the DOR pick. I'm kind of I was kind of annoyed. I wouldn't say annoyed, but it was like, really, why? Because as I said, just like right now, you need contributors and as much as possible. And it's not like the Knicks do a trash job over at Westchester. Tyler Kolek was succeeding. Pacome Dadier was succeeding. Ariel Huckporty was succeeding. And these guys could come up and play rotation minutes. And I'm not saying like, oh, this guy has to be in the starting lineup right immediately. It's not like we have to draft stars. If you draft decent role players, it works out. Look at the early years compared
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's changed? Because when they started, they got Deuce McBride in there,
Quentin
fantastic. And RJ Barrett's worked out fine because you used him as a trade chip. IQ was developed into one of the best combo guards off the bench in the
Quentin Grimes worked out for a bit,
and Grimes is now really developed into a good player. So they actually did a much better job. And it's fallen apart since then.
Yeah, even like when they passed up, obviously this was a part of, trying to sign Jalen Brunson when they emptied out the cap space, trading Kemba Walker and Jalen Duren. But again, and it's not like, it's semantical or anything like that. Like when you draft a guy, in my opinion, from where the Knicks are right now, you're looking for contributors as soon as possible. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be the greatest defensive player, offensive player. Make sure they fit the system and make sure they're ready to go. And if not, just spend some time in Westchester and just come up, just like Huckporty did, just like Kolek did. And again, Kolek is not the perfect player. He has some deficiencies defensively. I don't think he's that bad defensively personally, but the way he ran the offense last year was like miles ahead of what the Knicks did as for any of the point guards. LV Sure says, what happened to TJ Warren? He was killing it over Westchester. I think he's still a free agent. I could be wrong, but he's
a veteran anyway.
Yeah, he is a veteran. Last played for the Westchester Knicks. But it's again, the whole conversation, I think, centers around what the Knicks are going to do with the 13th and 14th spots because they have one more veteran minimum contract. Thank you, Yabusele, by the way, who took less than the mid-level exception so the Knicks could fill that spot. And they have
I love that signing, by the way. That's a great signing.
Yeah, I'm excited for Yabusele. You know what? He's using it as a bit of revenge towards Philly because he told like the people he was being interviewed by, they kind of lowballed him.
Good. Glad to hear it because we benefited.
Yeah, Clarkson also has some dog in him too, but I want to go back to the Cat Sabonis thing. So I broke this down. Better screener, Sabonis. And then you mentioned about screening with Bridges. Cat also has to be a better screener. Sabonis, screening. He's better at screening. He's also better at passing. He's also better at ball handling. Shooting and spacing and impact, I think they all go to Cat. But I think, as we said, he can unlock all those different things in Cat. Again, he might not average the most points per game, but at the end of the day, Cat's going to be a more efficient and effective player offensively. So without further ado, I'm going to load up some bookmarks that I have in my tweets, and we're going to look at some of these guys. Go ahead.
Something from Substack that would break down what Brown will give the Knicks. And it could be something to pay attention to. Here we go. Motion now offense. Here we go. Early impressions of Mike Brown's offense according to so salute to Shax.
Yes, Shax. I love his breakdowns. Guys, follow him on X with the Strickland. I actually had his tweet in my bookmarks, but we're obviously presenting it. Good. We're presenting it. So obviously,
early impressions of Mike Brown's offense. So we're looking at elbow-oriented sets. Brown consistently features his bigs at the elbow, using them as offensive hubs. The offense relies heavily on cutting, various actions, and constant off-ball movement to generate open looks and exploit defensive lapses. So, Luca, who do you see being used at the elbow?
I see Huckporty. I see Karl Anthony Towns possibly. Mitchell Robinson, not really. But I think Huckporty and Towns are going to be those more important guys. And I talked about it with Karl Anthony Towns. He doesn't have to be at the elbow necessarily because, Sabonis spent some of his possessions at the elbow. He's also spent some of his possessions standing stationary at the low post. Now you're going to have Towns who's going to attract the defenses away from the paint, and that's going to free up cutters going right to the basket. Think Mikal Bridges. Think Jalen Brunson. as I said,
OG.
off of handoffs.
OG's a pretty good
Yes.
cutter.
All these guys, Towns going to take away the defense. Even on dribble handoffs, you're going to have Brunson and Mikal Bridges going downhill, which is what you want. You're going to have them gain momentum. So it's perfect, the emphasis on the handoffs. Obviously, you don't want to overuse them, but at the end of the day, also, I got to speak about the handoffs real quick. We talked about Kevin Huerter having a career year in that 22-23 season. Here is the stats on those dribble handoffs.
Okay.
He ran them, the Kings ran them with him at a 23.7% frequency, 1.15 points per possession. He was in the 83rd percentile, averaging about 3.2 possessions per game, and he also scored 44% on those handoffs. Donald, who do you think is that player that could easily take that Kevin Huerter kind of, I don't want to say Kevin Huerter kind of leap, but being optimized as a three-point shooter just like that on the Knicks? Is that OG? Is that Bridges? Is that McBride?
It won't be Bridges. Bridges is three-point shots cooked. It's OG. OG's the one. I think you're going to see OG being a tremendous asset to Brown's system. Like he's basically perfect for it. Everything you're talking about, cuts, constant motion, all the stuff that OG thrives on, pace, all the things that OG thrives on. And he's also really good at getting in position to hit down open shots. Again, OG's really good at that. So I think OG's going to be ideal. Again, I'm not sure how Mikal Bridges fits. But
yeah, he's got to change something with his game.
Yes, he does. Now, he does the cutting.
Yes.
He does the off-ball activity. And he does drive on occasion. It's just
but he stops his drives.
He just stops his drive, and he does a little loop, and
he fades away from the basket.
Is afraid of any kind of contact, so he doesn't really have any impact on screens whatsoever. Like DiVincenzo, how good would he be in Mike Brown?
Oh yeah, dude, he killed. You got to remember the 23-24 season. He killed it, and I'll look it up. I actually might be able to look it up. He killed any other team that would dare Defend him on dribble handoff threes. Randall and Brunson. Randall and DiVincenzo. Whenever DiVincenzo got the ball, he turned, he fired, he hit. It was like almost automatic.
Exactly, and that's exactly the kind of player due to constant off-ball movement. Constant, because he was he was from the Golden State Warriors system.
Yes, he was.
He was just great, and I think we need to be acquiring players like that. If we can get him back, ideal. Again, my only takeaway on the starting five would be to move Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously, that would be an interesting to do. But Donald, obviously, there's more to the article, which I'm excited to read.
Absolutely. Constant player movement. Kings offense thrives on motion. So we've been through that. Structured play calling. That'll be interesting. Brown doesn't shy away from calling plays. We love that. Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This structure gives the offense a machine-like consistency, helping them execute even against the bed. Dude, we haven't run anything from an inbounds since Tibbs became coach. He'll do it. He doesn't call plays.
Those were all the inbounds plays were so awful.
Oh, they were awful. We couldn't even throw an inbounds. We couldn't.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
It cost us multiple games because we weren't able to complete an inbound sometimes. If it weren't getting a 5-second violation or we weren't turning it over, then we'd be just screwing it up altogether. So it would be really, really nice to execute a play from the inbounds. Creative designs and smart player usage. Brown tailors actions to his personnel. Thank you, Lord. Movement shooters like Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk are utilized through off-ball screens, which we talked about. That's all going to be important. So, one concern. Is this type of offense translatable to the New York Knicks? Now, this is a very good point. As great as Cat is, he's not Sabonis. Sabonis is one of the quickest decision makers. So, this is everything that I actually said. He's a natural release valve who thrives as a movement screener and passer. Towns is a talented standstill passing big, but his processing speed doesn't match Sabonis's. That's a real concern in an offense where the big is the central hub. That's a very, very good point, and that's what my concern is. Defenses can't afford to sag, but one key difference with Towns is he can shoot. Defenses, this is what your point is, defenses can't afford to sag off him the way they might with Sabonis. That gravity changes the spacing dynamics. It opens up more room for cuts, which is exactly your point, off-ball actions, and potentially creates cleaner driving lanes for others. His shooting threat adds a different kind of pressure that Brown could weaponize. So this is all, I mean, this is basically kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
While although the Knicks have the cutters, they simply lack true movement shooting. Yep, there's no Kevin Huerter type on the roster. There's no Malik Monk on this roster.
Unless you think it's, what's his name, Dottier. I think Dottier would flourish.
Maybe
if he gets some time.
We haven't seen really Dottier flourish yet, so I can't say that yet. So there isn't really that type on the roster. There wasn't Dante DiVincenzo. They got rid of him. And Mikal Bridges is not that awful at that. So that's why my major takeaway is that they need to move on from Mikal Bridges. But there's some really good stuff here. So if I were the Knicks, they need to bring in Kevin Huerter / Malik Monk types in terms of movement heavy guys that can pull up and shoot in movement. That's something that they need to do in order to help the spacing principles. But big shout out to the man here, Shax, who wrote that excellent article. Do check it out on Substack.
Now, it's been said that Mike Brown is a more detail-oriented coach, and we're actually going to see him break down film in this one clip. Let me pull it up. Hold on. It's out of. I'm not going to play the whole 3 minutes, but you're going to see the intricate details of how he could just break down a simple play. Okay. Let me keep this volume just a little low.
Going all right. Game in LA calls it right here, side out of bounds. Triano is our offensive coordinator. Jordy Fernandez is our defensive coordinator. And Jay had come up with this in the gameplay for us specifically because of the attention to pocket balls. Fox draws so much attention in the games that we felt that if the ball was in his hands initially, they were going to run a second defender at him, or they were going to ball watch a little bit to see what he does, and somebody would be open. A great passer, a willing passer, and he's going to make the right play. So we just got the ball in. It's a simple way to get it in bounds. He comes off this step up set by Domas. He beats Hawaii right here to the baseline. But you see, everybody is facing Fox because they know he's the threat in this situation at the end of the game. We had a little hammer action for one of our better shooters in the league on the backside. Great screen on the backside with the cleanup by Keegan Murray right here. Go ahead and run it. And then a little float pass to Malik. And Malik's confidence is out the roof. So we knew once that left his hands that it was going to go in.
I think he breaks down another play too.
Right here, you see the first screen by Harrison, a little distraction, but as you can see, the biggest thing is Keegan trying to clean it up on the backside. Here's the step up. Go ahead and run it. Boom, Foxy along the baseline. Norman loses a little sight of Malik. Batum can't get there because it's screened by Keegan. Bucket. We stay alive in that game.
I love that.
That's how important it is.
Damn, I love the way he talks, man. I love the way he cuts down ball. Isn't it great?
It's phenomenal. Let me see something real quick. Let me see if he breaks down. I think I'm trying to see if he can break down another play. It's that same.
Goes to the point, though. I mean,
you're saying
the only one I can think of that would do that role would be an OG Anunoby to finish that kind of shot.
Oh, yeah, I see that too.
You have Jalen Brunson cutting in and passing out wide. I would be OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many others where that would work. It's not Josh Hart.
No. I think Josh Hart would be very good as a screener in this.
I think Josh Hart would be ideal off the bench, man. You better not be starting.
No.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are a piece of weight. They need another 3-point shooter, athletic. 3-point shooter that's good in movement.
Yeah, so he's going to break down one more play. So this is with Domantas Sabonis. They're going to break down he's going to break down his gravity specifically here.
On the post, he knows he's got a mismatch. Beautiful ball fake by HB to get that weak side defender out of the paint. So now he can throw it over the top. The ball goes into the post. Pause it. Double team has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now when the double team happens, it's a wrap. This is like Arvidas.
Oh!
When it comes to passing, Domas is an excellent passer. You can see right away he knew he drew a double team, so it's eyes up, ball up, so the smalls can't get to it, and he's looking to the weak side. Our guys know when to cut on the weak side and when not to cut. In this case, they did a beautiful job holding on the weak side because there's no place to cut in the paint. There's a skip pass to Kevin. Right away, pause it. One of the things we talk about is getting off the ball quickly.
Ball's faster than the man, right, Coach?
Ball's faster than man. Hey, we learned that in 6th grade. You know, and I remember I got
fucking love Mike Brown.
And I don't think I ever won. So,
dude, I can listen to him talking ball all day.
Absolutely, man. And you know, here's another thing that the Knicks got in Yabusele and Clarkson. They were not a great finishing team last year. They were not a great attacking closeout team last year. You're obviously see Keegan Murray attacking a closeout here, but you're going to see Yabusele and Clarkson more often than not attack a couple of closeouts this year.
Keegan makes a quick decision. He drives the ball. We also talk about paint touches. Get paint touches and look for spray threes. Very unselfish basketball because we could have had 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots that most people would have been okay with, but we're looking for great shots as soon as we can. So there's the drive, there's the kick, beautiful ball movement, another drive, pause it. And again, you talk about spacing, and it's not just the perimeter guys. On Harrison's drive from the corner, you can see Domas. If Domas stays there, Harrison has no place to go. But what he does is he lifts up the floor, go ahead and run it. Domas, pause it right here. He lifts up the floor, which draws 2 guys over there. Everybody's ball watching. Now the paint is open for a guy to cut. We don't want to have 2 cutters. Keegan knows to stay. Foxy knows to stay. And again, go ahead and run it. Great cut by Kevin. Great finish.
Folks, that is our head coach.
I love it. We just need to have the right personnel that fits him. I don't think it necessarily is right now, but I'm all in on this guy. I absolutely love this guy. So I love the hire. I really do.
And I'd also like to add one more play from our guy Shaq's, actually DJ Zulo from the Knicks Film School podcast. It's about Sabonis. He says the Kings under Brown love to get the ball to the second side while flashing Sabonis to the elbow. Sabonis can catch, and the Kings can run split actions off him, or the handler can keep and run 2-man with Sabonis. This is perfect for cat skills. Let's see the breakdown. Well, he didn't break it down, but we'll see the play, and we'll see what happens, and I'll see if I can break it down myself. See, Sabonis is in the low post. I believe this is Paolo Banchero guarding him. We have, I believe that's Keegan Murray on the left side, guarded, I believe that's Cole Anthony guarding him. Hands down to Monk. Here comes, you talked about the elbow, Donald. Here comes Sabonis to the elbow. Hand off. Fake. Wide open Monk for the dunk. We run that back again. We have Monk. Hands to Sabonis. Nice little pass fake. The ball defender is caught up on Sabonis, and that is going to have to lead this weak side defender, obviously, to come help, but Monk's quickness is just too much for the defense for even to contest the shot. Here's another play. You're facing Golden State. Sabonis once again in the low post on the weak side. You have Kevin Huerter. Here comes Sabonis to the elbow again, being guarded by Kevon Looney. You have Curry playing defense on Kevin Huerter. Screen, drive, Huerter kicks Sabonis open for the finish. That, I think that's on the short roll. So once again, sets the screen, drags 2. The backside defender, Andrew Wiggins, not there to help, frees up Sabonis. Just selfishness, as I would call it. But even Mike Brown spoke about that in the press conference. Again, you really don't talk about, press conference being all that, but he also talked about selflessness. He talked about sacrifice. That's going to be a thing with this Knicks team to see whether they really evolve.
Good. That's going to be an upgrade.
So, we're in about an hour and a half almost, breaking down Mike Brown's offense and some of his quality characteristics. But Donald, do you have any final thoughts regarding our new head coach? And
No, I love the hire. I could listen to him talking ball all day. I'm all in on this guy. Give him time. Just put the right pieces around him. That's my plea to Leon Rose. Whatever it takes, get the right pieces to make that system work, and it will work. Trust me, it will work.
It will work, obviously, with the right pieces in place, and obviously, players have to sacrifice. And the one thing that I also read about Mike Brown
I would acquire Giannis. Giannis, if he becomes available, go all in on him.
Yeah, I think he said to the streamer iShowSpeed, he's like, I know they want me over in New York right now. And he's like, are you going to, I think he asked him, like, you can stay in Milwaukee. He's like, yeah, for maybe about a year.
Yeah, he's not all in at all. We can get him. We might even be able to get him by the deadline. So
that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, either this year at the deadline or next year, I think, is the window for Giannis, if possible.
And I would make anyone available, obviously without Brunson.
Without Brunson, and everybody else is obviously on the table. But that's Mike Brown, folks. I'm excited for the hire as well as much as Donald. Offense is going to definitely look better in terms of optimization. You're going to see a better version of Towns, hopefully, a better version of Brunson, more efficient. And hopefully, obviously, the pieces like Clarkson and Yabusele, the new guys, are going to fit in. It's going to be a question whether Bridges will fit in. Obviously, we talked about the lack of three-point shooting on his end and too much of the mid-range shooting. He did it. Donald, you heard him in that breakdown emphasize paint touches. So if Bridges, he's got to cut to the paint, but he's also got to drive to the paint.
Facts.
And that's absolutely the adjustment. But excited for Mike Brown. But I will say, folks, if you guys haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you know when I go live or drop a new video. But if you are also a subscriber to the Big Blue in the Bronx, check out this Saturday, I believe it's 8:30 p.m. We'll be streaming a goodbye stream for Big Blue in the Bronx. He is effectively ending the channel to, I should say my brother's effectively ending the channel to move on to better hopes, but we're all going to talk about it. We're all going to reminisce. We're going to talk about the good times on that stream. So if you guys want, I can put a link in the description whatsoever to show you guys.
Bringing the band back together.
Bringing the band back together to reminisce about the good old times. But regardless,
that was the best year ever, bro.
Absolutely. This channel is here to stay, must I say. It's been phenomenal doing content for you guys. It will keep coming. Did a live stream for y'all, but if you guys have already, support the channel, share this out as well. Can't wait for the next. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm pretty sure Donald's pretty optimistic as well. But guys, let's go Knicks. See you guys later. Have a good night. Peace.